welcome back to the Blissful Badger and my March Madness Army Showcase Showdown. Throughout this month, we're going to look at all of my armies, and I'd like you to rate these armies on 5 criteria on a scale of 1 to 10. And then, at the end of the month, we're going to tally up all of the scores and see which army is the best out of my collection. So what are these criteria? 1. The paint scheme. Is my army cohesive? What level have I painted it to? Do these colors work for this army? 2. Playability. How did I go selecting models for this army? Is this a viable army on the battlefield? 3. My reason for owning it. Do I have a good justification for owning this army? 4. Theming. How much does this army fit their lore? Have I built this army to a standard that makes sense for what the army does in the lore? And 5, conversions and customization. What conversions did I make to this army? How did I make it my own? So which army are we checking out today? Today, we're taking a look at my Imperial Knights and Adeptus Custodes armies. Alright. You can tell just by looking that I don't have very much painted here for either of these armies. So, I'm just going to come right out from the start and say the Custodes are because it took 6 hours to paint this one model, and I want to go to this quality for all of the others. And they require subassembly, so I have quite a few bits just laying here ready to go, and I just need to work on them. I really love the Shadow Keepers look, and I want to do a great job with them, and that's why those are sitting on these priming boards instead of being painted. I have quite a few models still to build and paint, and I do look forward to it, but with the speed that I go through them, it's going to take a while. I also need to figure out what I'm going to do for basing. I want to do something a little bit special and paint separately and then glue them down to the base. This isn't usually how I do things. I usually glue them to the base and then reluctantly get around to mudding and tufting afterwards. But this feels like an army that needs a little bit more work and special care. There's only, 60 models in this army-ish. So I want each of them to be a little bit more special. I began this army when the Christmas box, The Watchers of the Gate, came out, and I went, you know what? If I buy 2 of these boxes, I have a Custodes army. And so I bought 2 of the boxes, and I started working on them, I think last year, because I knew I wanted to do something special and spend more time on them. And I have seen a vast improvement in my painting ability in the last year, so it felt like the right time to start working on them. And then, before the Custodes update to the combat patrol, I decided I would grab this box because 2 units of Sisters of Silence is pretty much what I paid for the whole box. Why not grab the additional 8 models for pretty much nothing? So I have a unit of Wardens. I have 2 units of Horus Custodians, the Horus Terminators. I have 9 Virtus Praetors, 3 of which are probably going to get converted into leaders. Maybe 2. I don't know. Haven't gotten that far yet. I have 35 Custodian Guard, though, and that means that I have the freedom to do conversions. Like this Sword Champion. And Shield Captains. So I do plan on doing a few kit bashes like that, make them special. And you may notice I don't have any of the Forge World kits for this, but I think that's okay because I honestly don't trust Forge World with adding anything to my armies anymore. If you want to see why, check out my Tyranid video from a few days ago. Now, it would be nice to have a few transports or tanks or heavy hitters or dreadnoughts. They're cool looking models. But I won't ever consider them part of the army unless they go plastic and say Warhammer 40,000 on it. And with that in mind, we also have my Knights, and both of these armies could theoretically be run in the Heresy era as well. And some of these Knights even are sold under the Heresy era, and that is another reason why I have 1 and not 3 of this chassis. I would love to have a Lancer. I wouldn't mind having a huge Flamer, but I don't trust GW with keeping them in the Codex. As it is, we've gone how many months where we should have had their Codex? So anyway, now that we're on the Knights, I started my Knight journey with the Renegade box. That was quite a few years back, and I bought one and split the box with someone, and I decided I would build the Crusader Knight and magnetize all the weapons, because you never know about the future. But the other person grabbed the Fist. So I just had a Crusader, and then eventually I picked up the Adeptus Mechanicus half of Forgebane, I believe. And so I grabbed 2 of the Armigers, the Warglaves, because the others, the Helverins, were not actually available yet. So I had 1 big knight, a Questoris, the Crusader, and 2 Armiger Warglaves, and I was going to paint them up to go into my Dark Angels army, because at the time, you could do that. As time went on, I picked up another Questoris as part of a splitting of box with someone else, another renegade, and then I didn't do anything for them for quite a few years. And then the Chainbreaker Lance box came out, and I went, yup, we're finally going in with the Knights. So I picked up 2 Chainbreaker Lance boxes. They were the only 2 boxes I've ever purchased directly from Games Workshop and paid full price for. And now I have all of these Knights. And if you notice, this one, my Castigator, hasn't been announced yet. Well, I picked up a lot of Death Guard that included Mortarion and quite a few other things secondhand, and the Castellan was part of that lot. And I went, okay, that sounds great. I will have it as a centerpiece model. So I'm excited about that. It was already primed green, so we'll go with that. I might need to prime it again. But overall, my Knights have gone through a few different iterations over the years, and the original idea of painting it to fit the Dark Angels is no longer a requirement. And so I'm not really sure if I want to do like a marble texture or with colors, or if I want to go Suture Vora or something else. But that's the reason why they are primed and not painted. Because truthfully, I don't really know what color scheme I want to go with. But I do know that I need to get these guys painted and based at some point in the near future. The army's already built, I just need to do the work to paint them up. So, what do you think for color scheme? I have so many different armies, and they're big, stompy knights. They need to be somewhat unique, but they are also royalty, being, pilots of knights. I also want their weapons to be interchangeable. So whatever the colors are, I can't do anything wild like have each one a separate color. I could do that with the armigers because those are not magnetized. They are as they show. But and then I have a Canis Rex over there. But beyond that, I'm not really sure what I want to do. For a while there, I was thinking about having their bases be a battlefield with a bunch of mud and trenches. But even that is up for change at this point. I've actually had some fun with playing these guys in the last couple of years. They are technically able to be fielded, but it would be so nice to have them finished. And then, just because, even though I said I don't trust Forge World, maybe get a Warhound Titan for it? That would be fun. But definitely not before I paint this army. So, I have 2 armies that need quite a lot of work. I don't feel bad about purchasing either of them. They are things that I want to work on, but one I don't really know what color scheme I want to go with, and the other I have a color scheme planned, but it takes a lot of time.
going forward, I definitely need to just work on these. I'm not planning on picking up anything else for them in the near future. And hopefully I'll have some videos about actually working on these.
If you would like to see a full breakdown of my army list, there is a link to a spreadsheet in the description below. Subscribe if you haven't, so that you don't miss any future videos. I also want to thank my patrons and supporters for making these videos possible. And until next time, I hope you find your bit of bliss.